Make your winning move today and bet at MyBookie. Use promo code Gators and claim your deposit match, redeemable up to $1,000. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. And Gators Breakdown is proud to partner with America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh. Go to HelloFresh.com/GatorsFree and use code GatorsFree for free breakfast for life with active subscription.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
All right, what's up, Gators Breakdown Plus members?
What's up, folks?
Man, newsy day, huh?
Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment for sure. This one, I mean, look, we all know these were coming. Transfer portal departures. We'll have to wait a little while for incoming ones, but some guys also announcing they're going to stick around Florida. As one Cam Jackson did announce he's going to stick around. So, but yeah, little bit of list here of guys who have announced that they're going to put their name in a transfer portal that opens next Monday. And of course, be hot and heavy trying to follow it all. But man, these next few days, they're just, this is just a tip of the iceberg, I think, once you start adding in what we're about to see comings and goings in the next week or so. But yeah, getting together, of course, first time Florida since the Florida season has ended, 5-7. They lost to Florida State to end the year of, unfortunately, there. So we can, if you guys want to talk about the season a bit in totality, I think we can do that a bit. We can go back and look at the FSU game. I know the season was ugly, so I understand if you don't want to talk about it all too much. But we can go that. Of course, we'll talk about all the portal news, coaching changes as well. First time we've all gotten together since Corey Raymond and Sean Spencer have been let go at Florida. So, yeah, we got. There's plenty of avenues to go around with this episode of Gators Breakdown Plus. This chat. Guys, if you're not actively talking, could you put your mic on mute? I think that's Ryan Hicks, maybe, Ryan. But yeah, wherever you guys want to go.
So things are trending toward ETN leaving. Is that sort of the latest there?
Yeah, that is the latest from everything I've gathered. I guess we'll start there. There you go, Christian. Yeah, you go put us on the spot right here with the biggest with the biggest story, of course, to come out in the last couple of days. Yeah, I guess I guess you kind of have to there. Yeah, running back Trevor Etienne. I know you guys have been keeping up with it in the Discord. There, it's not too new of news. I think I shared a picture that I got back November 16th, I think was the date on it. So about 2 weeks ago, that this was possible, that he would have interest in transferring away from Florida. And I know in a lot of ways it doesn't make sense. I guess if you look at it from his way, he wants to win more. That's the vibe that I have gotten from this. Now, of course, he'd be definitely getting wherever he decides to go, if he decides to go, some nice NIL package wherever he. But that this is more. Man, somebody got it going. That was not me.
Sorry, I had to do it.
I'm trying to soundboard out, I think. But yeah, with Trevor, of course, the NIL is going to play a part of it. But also, I think winning, the losses piling up, have a lot to do with this. Would sting, of course, if you're Billy Napier and the storyline of preaching patience, preaching, a somewhat slow build. We're going to build this the right way, and you've got some good pieces, but those good pieces don't see it all the way through. And if that's what you're banking on as a coach of developing guys that you brought in from your transition class and, it paying off down the road, or your second class and paying off down the road, well, you can't lose one of your best playmakers to do it. So I think that's part of the way Billy Napier has chosen to attack of building this team. Stings if one of your foundational pieces that you're counting on in year 3 to help turn this thing around are not on the roster. So there's a couple other ways to look at it too. The running back position in and of itself may be overrated, maybe a little expendable, but in the way Billy Napier has chosen to build this offense, the way his offense has looked, of course, in his first couple of seasons throughout his career as a head coach at Louisiana and a play caller as an offensive coordinator, he still likes to run the ball. And Trevor Etienne has proven to be one of your most explosive guys. So it's a little more valuable in a Billy Napier offense. And of course, what we've seen the last 2 years with Trevor Etienne at the same time. So yeah, it would be a loss. I think now next year, does the offense open up a bit more? Does Graham Mertz come back? And that allows for the offense to open up a little more, and you rely on more in the passing game. It doesn't maybe hurt as much. That's a possibility. But right now, given what we have seen, I think what we have to go by, many angles, this hurts as you're losing a playmaker and that foundational piece that you probably need in year 3 to turn this thing around.
Yeah. Just counterpoint. Yes, he's one of our best players on the field. On our team. But it's like you said, it is the running back position. Billy Napier's system kind of is built for a running back to be successful. Both Johnson and Etienne's numbers were pretty even throughout the year, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
So, yeah, like we said, he's a huge playmaker, but I don't think he's irreplaceable. I don't think offense. I don't think Etienne is going to be the difference in winning 8 games next year, which is basically what Billy's going to have to do probably to keep his job.
Makes the getting Cam Carroll last season, so important. Getting him back, I guess, potentially, hopefully, at least that's what it seems to have been reported, is that he's coming back. And then Trayon Webb looked good when he played this year, right? So I'm not going to try to spin it as a good thing. He's obviously a great player. You don't want to lose him, but I think it does mean, more carries for younger guys. And just as far as like the flow of the depth chart, I feel like it makes sense. You got an older guy in Carroll, and then Johnson. You got Webb, and then you got Kanan Daniels coming in potentially with Jaden Ball, right? So we're bringing in potentially 2 backs in this class. I just think it does kind of make sense. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Well, he's a great player, but.
I think that's probably a good way to put it. I don't think you could spin it as a good thing, but that still doesn't mean it has a huge effect.
Yeah, I don't think it's as bad as everybody's making it out to be.
Definitely not a good thing, though.
Well, I think we have said, and I know the conversation has gone on, and this is probably the biggest part of it. Optics surely don't look good. If you want to go that route.
Yeah.
That's
the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's the worst part. Hey, you're trying to turn this thing around. We know year 3 is so important. It may be do or die year. It's hot seat, and you're losing one of your best players. So the optics of that don't look good.
To be fair, one of the optics at UF they have looked good. Under the Napier. I'm not saying anything, but you just go back to our off season last year with the whole recruiting fiasco and Kamani McLean and Jaden Rashada. We're just a glutton for punishment.
I think really this needs to be the mantra going forward, man. We need to win more. He's right. Absolutely right. It's disgusting, man.
Yeah, but Poacher, that's part of it. This is where I think losses piling up can hurt, or actually does hurt. From what I can gather from people I trust, a win-loss record does have a lot to do with this. He wants to go, if he decides to leave, what put this in his mind is to go somewhere and win. So the first 2 years under Billy Napier, not winning a whole lot of ball games, and look, that's in today's college football. That is the detractor of the slow build. The guys can go, guys can leave anytime now, and if they may tell you, Coach, we're here with you for the long haul. We'll help you build this thing back. But once losses start piling up, it may get old for them a little bit. So they may feel like they need to go win in their 3rd year. Maybe feel like they need to go to a bigger spotlight as they're college career could be dwindling down, getting ready for the NFL, especially at the running back spot. We know how the NFL values it. You don't have, they don't run you in the ground too much anymore. You don't get a whole ton of carries. You're limited just by your position anyway. So if he feels like, at the running back spot, or if any other position, maybe where I only want to play 3 years in college, I want to go and get those 2 contracts in the NFL that are oh so important. Well, you only got so many carries to do that, and so does he feel like Florida gives him the best spot to do that? Looks like if he decides to leave, then maybe not. But it is, the loss is piling up. I think there's a couple ways of looking at it. Want to win more, and also just doesn't really give you that buffer to sell everybody that you brought in, even though they're having success, that this thing's headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I can't say that I blame him.
And look, that's the bad thing about the slow build. I'll go back to that point. The slow build in today's college football. I mean, look, we know FSU's brought up all the time with this comparison of Napier and the slow build, and they did it. But look, still, like, college football has moved that fast in just this short of time. We're still in the infancy of transfer portal, still in the infancy of NIL. But I mean, guys, we're seeing it the last couple of days. It is nuts out there right now. The game is changing so fast, and I'm not sure. Maybe it's different in the SEC just a bit. Where the competition is so high, is hot and heavy, and there's much more pressure on you to perform a little bit faster. I just don't know. I don't know if this complete teardown and thinking you're going to get 3-4 years to show it. I don't know if that's possible anymore.
That's my thing with him. I don't know. Like, you have to make hires to keep up with Georgia and them, like, and your other rivals, and to be able to compete. And the thing with him is just like, he just, like, in his mind, he's just thinking rebuild, like, and I think that goes onto the field too. Like, when he's talking in press conferences saying we're years behind, we're like a class or 2 or a class or a half behind Georgia and these other teams. Like, no, you should be wanting to compete with them every single year. Like, not to compare another coach, but like Freeze with Auburn, like, he's competing like right now. So next year, even if he does lose, like, it'll probably still be close to like a Bama or something like that. But that's what, like we say, like, Mullen, or we have a talent disadvantage or whatever, but you have to go in a portal and get those players replaced. Like, it's just like he sat with those players and then just said, oh, well, we have a talent. There's a talent disadvantage. And then just kept playing and just kept those same players. And that was it. And then went into the season. You can't do that. Like, we don't have time to keep rebuilding 3 to 4 years while Georgia gets a championship every single year. Like, you have to know the program and have to know what's going on in the SEC and your rivals. Like, now FSU's up now for this year, but we don't know about next year. But like, it just doesn't look good.
Yeah, I mean, kind of maybe finish that thought up there. It's just like, I think some of us wanted more sense of urgency to begin with, but I do think at the same time a lot of this caught by surprise of how integral the transfer portal has been, the NIL has been, and just how fast maybe the mindset of players are changing in this new world of college football. Yeah, I mean, guys sticking around, through rebuilds may be a thing of the past as well. But look, that's one player with ETN. I don't want to take it to the extreme. Not everything's 0, not everything's 100, but certainly
he was sold a false bill of goods. We were supposed to be a run first team. We haven't done that either of these 2 seasons, and it makes me. What is the identity? Like, what is it, man?
Yeah. And you guys have heard
really bad defensive team forced to throw the ball more than we wanted to.
Yeah. I mean, Will and I have brought up the identity of this team a bit the last couple of weeks, and that is a good point too. With the way this defense is played, it's maybe forced Napier to be certainly changing a bit on offense more so than he'd want. But at the same time, I do think, even early on in recruiting with some of the good wide receiver recruiting, some of the type of receiver we've seen that maybe coming in this class, DJ Lagway as well, maybe there was a realization that he needs to adapt and change a little bit. But I think, we'll see what that means, going into next year too. And, assuming Graham Mertz will be the quarterback there. But hey, look, he had his exit meeting on this Wednesday. So I guess likely to come back. I don't think it's 100% he comes back. But, if you ask me right now, I guess I would say likely. But, we got the news today, of course, of Max Brown transferring out of the program. And no huge surprise. If it looks likely Mertz is going to be back, you got DJ Lagway coming in. I mean, as soon as DJ Lagway committed to Florida, I think that was pretty much the writing on the wall. We all know the Rashada and Austin Simmons saga and storylines to go along with that, too. I don't know if any of us really ever saw Max Brown being much of a chance at starting at quarterback for Florida, minus what happened last week, an injury there to Mertz, and he gets a one start, but not a season starter or anything like that. But I think as we talk transfers a bit, and we finally get some official news this week of intent to transfer starting next Monday, it does come out Max Brown is going to be on his way out. It's kind of weird just to he started the game last week, and now he's already putting his name into the transfer portal. But I also think we know it's no huge surprise with the quarterback situation at Florida.
What caused Caleb Douglas to transfer?
The calls, I don't know. Maybe
he couldn't get on the field.
Couldn't get on the field. He was hurt. I don't know how much that plays into it. That is one I kind of want to follow around more a little bit. I mean, it's no huge surprise. I think if you start looking down the receivers, he may not be the only one. Jaquavion Frazier is a transfer portal possibility. Marcus Burke is a transfer portal possibility. I mean, Florida could be. Ty Bowman is another one of guys that are on scholarship that could be seeing their way out of this program. But maybe with the possible emergence, maybe Burke stays, and maybe the possible emergence of an Aiden Mizell as well, maybe eats into that. I think he would have played just because of who Florida has at wide receiver and the depth chart. I mean, I think given the little bit of experience, I think he was starting earlier in the year before he got hurt as well. He probably would have played and started next year too. So I think that is why it was a little bit of a surprise, caught some people off guard. But look, I mean, if we're going to sit here and say, Trevor Etienne is no huge loss for Florida because of an offense or whatever, and Caleb Douglas is not either. I mean, so
yeah, definitely.
It would be a stretch to say, oh, this really hurts Florida. It doesn't really. So we'll see where Florida's, I think, certainly still got to go transfer portal hunting at the wide receiver position. But this was one I could take or leave. It's no huge loss, and I don't think it'd be look. There's no difference in win-loss record because of Caleb Douglas being on the field.
No, I just thought it was odd. I thought he would have a good chance to start next year, so I didn't know if something caused it.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly would have he definitely would. He definitely would.
I honestly don't think that offense was our issue this year. I mean, a couple of games here and there, but definitely not the reason we lost as many games as we did. I mean, we need to get the defense fixed, and I think offensively we should be okay.
We haven't done the things we need. We can't fix the defense with the way we're recruiting, man. We needed 3 linebackers in his first class. Like, it's not going to be better.
We just had 4 in his first class.
It can be better. I mean, we're getting new coaches. I mean, it's already been said that Raymond just wasn't a good fit for Austin Armstrong's scheme. I mean, it can get better. I'm not saying it is. I mean, we definitely need to add players through the portal, linebackers, a defensive end, good pass rusher. I mean, yeah, another defensive tackle maybe. But it can't get worse. Let's put it that way. I mean, it's pretty much
Oh, Ryan, don't say that. We've been saying that for 4 years. I know what you're saying. There's level.
But I mean, realistically, if we're the 105th worst defense, I mean, there's only 120 teams, so we can't go that much further. I mean, it's bad. It's all there is to it. That's where we need to make our improvements on the offseason.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's why you saw Corey Raymond and Stapleton were the first coaches. Sean Spencer were the first coaches fired. I mean, that's making a statement. And that's Napier making a statement in my mind.
But that's the thing. Now he has to make up for what he didn't do year one when he came in here, or last year. Like he has to make up for so much stuff, and it's hard. Like I'm not saying that he's going to get like. I'm waiting to see all the hires, but I believe that he should be able to get 8 wins. I want him to stay, but the thing is, it's just like you just made it completely hard. You just made it so much harder for yourself this year. You just made it so much harder going into next year.
He's been doing that since day one.
Yeah.
I mean, we keep saying
that's kind of the mindset that he had when he was told about the rebuild.
We all know
been told that you don't get a rebuild.
Keep on that storyline since we are on defense. I think we certainly have to talk about the latest storylines today of the guys that are leaving and one coming back. Of course, it's being reported, and I don't think it's any surprise, but nothing official. Kamari Wilson will be on his way out. At safety, of course, didn't play. Lots of talk of maybe he should be moving to linebacker in the offseason, him not wanting to do that. And then, of course, not playing really at all this year. And, of course, not really even on the sideline. So Kamari Wilson reported there that he'll be entering the transfer portal. He had some family members saying, dismissing that claim right now. Will Norman looks like he's on his way out as well. The word I got there, maybe just not a fit for small college town life. Of course, from the Northeast, went to IMG, Florida, both IMG guys so far, Kamari Wilson and Will Norman, so far not working. You finally get some traction in IMG, and the guys you've gotten so far won't be sticking around right now. But Will Norman, of course, not really mother passed away as well, so maybe that plays into it late, but I think this was already in the motions before that. Just not necessarily a fit. Also, Sean Spencer, who he did know somewhat before, coming into Florida, since he's not here as well, kind of riding on the wall. So Will Norman looks to be on his way out as well. And then the big news of Cam Jackson returning for Florida up there, up the middle on the defense. Big news. I think Florida certainly can use some continuity there. Certainly not a liability there in the middle. Maybe didn't make as many plays as we wanted to see from him this year. You don't really get that from that spot a whole lot anyway. Kind of more of a do your job role there, but of course transferring from Memphis and coming in didn't duplicate the stats from Memphis to Florida last year. Of course, ramp up in competition. Only played 11 games this year. Missed the Arkansas game off the top of my head if I remember right. Played in 13 games at Memphis last year. But if you compare last year to what he did this year, he had 19 solo tackles last year at Memphis. He had 17 this year at Florida, so very close there. He had 22 assisted tackles at Memphis last year, 15 this year at Florida. So that gave him a 41 total last year at Memphis. He had 32 this year. They have 2.5 tackles for loss last year, only a half tackle loss credited this year. So not a huge disparity there with two less games being played. So it would have been very similar to his Memphis production had he played in 2 more games, I think there. So pretty much, kind of status quo, but maybe a little better since you get a ramp up in competition from Memphis to Florida as far as stats go. But it looks like a couple guys on their way out: Kamari Wilson, Will Norman, and then the big news of Cam Jackson returning.
I mean, we need him. I mean, his numbers might not have been as good, but we got to have defensive linemen. And another year in the system. I mean, who knows? Yeah. New defensive line coach. Maybe something will, and maybe he can get better.
Kind of see that too, because we need that because there is some talk of maybe Chris McClellan maybe weighing his options as well. So it would be huge for Cam Jackson to return. Desmond Watson as well, maybe another candidate to hit the transfer portal. So Florida, I think, needed to anyway hit the transfer portal, but also, and Sapp's name, I think you can probably throw him in there as well from talk that's going around. So, Watson, McClellan, Sapp, guys there that you could be counting on in the middle next year in the interior of this defensive line. With Jackson coming back, great, but you still probably got to hit the transfer portal again. We saw some good things from Jamari Lyons besides spitting on guys last week. Caleb Banks this year as well. But hopefully, somebody like Chris McClellan, who you've recruited and who was in your first class, I think has potential here for Florida. You keep him in the fold. That would be nice to add to, whatever you can get from the transfer portal again in those spots. And LJ McCray may be so special as a true freshman, but he's still kind of more in the edge, is what they're telling him. So,
the defensive linemen who are thinking about leaving, is it more the coaching change, or is it just all the losses?
I don't think it's coaching change because I was hearing those names beforehand anyway, except for Sapp. Sapp's name I heard yesterday, so that could have something to do with it. I think he has a kid as well. And being from South Florida too, maybe plays into it. McClellan.
I mean, at that point, most of our best defensive linemen are leaving if they all enter in. I mean, they're probably not all going to enter in, but that's the majority of our defensive line.
Yeah, I'm just saying, something to monitor. I mean, I don't basically, put it out there so if you guys hear it, you're not totally blindsided or whatever. Of course, not everything even being said, but usually if I hear names like this, it's not made up. It's coming from a reliable part that, hey, there's interest, there's a possibility that these things could happen. And look, that's the thing. If you get so close to it, you see how fluid a lot of this stuff is. So, not everything.
When you go 5-7,
yeah,
this is the repercussions. I mean, this is what happens. Like we said with ETN, players want to win. I mean,
yeah, but as far as all the defensive linemen, they can go. That's perfectly fine.
It is you do find yourself in a weird spot there, because of course the play wasn't good, just defense terrible, and as we said with the coaches, nobody's job should be safe, and this probably goes for the players as well. You do hope if guys are in their youth, their young part of their careers, that they can still develop, they can still take another step, but at the same time, it's. I think we have this conversation before we go into every season, and we see this experience chart that comes out. And hey, this team's bringing back so and so many juniors and so many seniors. Well, how much does that really mean when you're not good in the first place? And I think that's a valid question we could ask ourselves here. I think there's something there with McClellan and Lyons and Sapp and it's. I think it would kind of sting to have to go hit the portal that much just to make up for the numbers there. I think we saw some good things from some freshmen this past year, but not really on the interior, minus McClellan in his second year and Lyons finally getting some snaps and Caleb Banks as well. So I think there are some pieces. I wouldn't mind most of those guys coming back with some different leadership at the defensive line, but at the same time, when you look this bad, it can. Yeah. You can look at it the other way as well.
When you're this bad, it's not just players and it's not just coaches.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just for depth, I mean, McKellen and Sapp for sure, and Lyons. I mean, he started to come on late in the season. I mean, all three of those.
No, I'm not hearing anything. I'm bringing his name up as somebody who produced. I'm not hearing anything with Lyons as far as
good.
Good. Yeah, going out or anything like that.
But yeah, McKellen and Sapp, I would like to have them back.
There is
especially if you can move Sapp back inside to his natural spot. I mean, that would really help out.
Our interior D line was actually the only thing that was good. I mean, stopping interior runs, we did fine. JP Gators shared some stats there that were good.
Right.
And a lot of guys had to play out of position. Like I was telling you before the year even started, Caleb Banks should not be playing tackle.
Right.
And we had almost playing exclusively there. Like he was the one getting blown off the ball pretty much all the time.
Yeah, I'd like to see it with Boone in there and guys playing. I mean, that's kind of been the bugaboo of this defense. You know, Jervon Dexter playing a lot of out of position last year, playing too many snaps last year. Guys having to do it again just because they haven't built up the depth yet. When guys go down, that now you got to just shuffle the pieces to get bodies in certain places. You like to have guys that play their roles all the time. You'd like some versatility. It happens, but. It does seem like when one injury happens, it kind of just derailed whatever plan they had up front.
Where's the discipline? We lost that game versus FSU on 2 penalties, basically 2 unsportsmanlike penalties, the targeting and the spitting.
The targeting one, I still go back. That's so tough. I mean, you
got to be coached not to kill the dude, man. They went to the ground and crushed his head. They didn't try and tackle him. No, they went to hit him. There's a difference between hitting and tackling, and they did the hitting.
Okay, but you're running full speed. If he decides, he slid a yard before the first down marker. If they
hit him with open arms, they don't make that call. They called it because they didn't. They go down there to smash him with their freaking shoulders.
But if you make any contact to the head when he's sliding,
no, I get that. Look, I'm not.
Dale Hill's been here for 5 years, and that's the first time that he's had an instance like this where he's been thrown out of the game for targeting. So if you're going to blame Billy for that, saying it's a lack of coaching after 5 years of having one issue, then you're picking and choosing who you want to blame.
I'm just saying, say Rodemaker, look, he slid a yard before the first down marker. If I'm a defender, I'm thinking he's running all the way to the first down marker. So in that split,
those plays happen.
In that split second decision, I don't know if I can put it on the player.
Yeah, I mean, we see that play happen all the time in football. It's only a penalty since they started enforcing, protecting the quarterback more. So,
I mean,
it used to not be a penalty.
It's also like when you're on the field, you don't know exactly if you're on the 37 or 38 yard line. I mean, it's a bang bang play. That's just really tough. He would have. The thing is, he might have gotten the benefit of the doubt if he had made any effort to pull up or avoid quarterback. But what the refs are looking at is it is forcible contact to the head. He is deemed defenseless because he had given himself up. It's tough. I don't blame Jaden Hill, but I'm sure on film they showed him and said, "Hey, do this next time."
Have they watched film since the game?
Well, his coach just got fired, so
yeah.
That play happened right in front of the side judge too.
Hey, you.
I mean, it was a very
MC Gator fan. My bad. UFC Gator fan. I had to mute your mic. I'm getting a whole lot of noise there or whatever. So.
I mean, Florida State, you kind of get there's going to be penalties. I mean, that's just the way it is. But that was our worst game for penalties. What did we have? 80 to 100 yards in penalties?
Yeah, I think it was 8 for 90 something, I believe, something like that.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's just you're not going to win many games like that. I mean, especially with a backup quarterback.
Yeah. I mean,
a defense like ours.
Yeah, the spitting inexcusable.
Yeah,
you had the good field position that was wiped out by a block out of bounds on that too. Yeah, I mean that's the stuff there.
They should have called holding on that play that he'll kill that quarterback though.
Yeah, if you found $100 bill on the ground, you wouldn't walk past it. So don't pass up a chance at easy cash with MyBookie. MyBookie has the biggest online selection of odds and contests to fill all your sports betting needs anytime, anywhere. So you can turn that sports knowledge into cash in your wallet. Bet on the NFL, Conference Championship week in college football this week, or play for a share of big cash prizes in the weekly blackjack tournaments. If you've been waiting for the right time to get in on the action, that time is now. Make your winning move today. Sign up at MyBookie using promo code Gators to claim your deposit match, redeemable up to $1,000. Again, that's promo code Gators to claim your bonus. Experience the thrill of sports betting right from the comfort of your home. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. And hey, it's the most wonderful time of the year, and you can make it more wonderful by using America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh. Your holiday shopping is made easier by shopping online, so why not make your meal prep easier too this holiday season? So skip that extra trip to the grocery store and instead get fresh ingredients and delicious recipes delivered right to your door from HelloFresh. The most wonderful time of the year is also the most delicious. Every bite of the holiday season with HelloFresh. Choose from over 45 weekly recipes and over 100 curated picks from the HelloFresh market. One of my favorites now, just started trying it, the breakfast. I'm a big fan of those quick and easy turkey, sausage, and cheese egg bites. Pop them in the microwave, and you got a tasty hot breakfast really quick. So treat yourself today. Go to HelloFresh.com/GatorsFree and use code GatorsFree for free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/GatorsFree with code GatorsFree. We've brushed by it a little bit, but Raymond gone, Spencer gone. Surprised? Not surprised? Is it worthy? Is it not worthy of firing? How do you guys see it? Will and I talked about it on the heels of it the other night. So most of my thoughts, but I'll kind of just repeat what I said earlier. Nobody's job should be safe here when your defense is that bad 2 years in a row. I know it may be some surprise with Corey Raymond's reputation and all that, but he hasn't been part of a good defense since 2019. And is that all him? No, it's not. But tail end of LSU didn't end so well. First 2 years at Florida, not there either. So, and look, it was not necessarily not where they're going at it all the time and whatever, but just philosophically not maybe a good fit here with the Austin Armstrong, Patrick Toney defenses of the last couple of years. So all in all, maybe not a huge surprise there, but I can see where it is. And then Sean Spencer as well. I think that one, in some ways, that one surprised some people more so than Corey Raymond. So. But yeah, nobody's job right there should be safe, and we'll see. We'll see what happens on the offensive side. But on the defensive side, right now, Corey Raymond, John Spencer out.
Well, Raymond's recruiting wasn't at the same level either that it was at LSU. So, that's kind of, in my mind, one of the big reasons why we brought him over here. He had a solid class last year, but it wasn't LSU, the 5 stars that he was reeling in over there. And then, like you said, the defense was atrocious the last 2 years, so and nobody's safe.
Point me to a position group that's doing well, and that's a coach I want to keep. It looks like Billy G. Of all the freaking coaches we got, Billy G looks like the only one developing players, and it's infuriating.
And he may not be here after this year. He probably will be one of the ones let go.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know as far as the offensive goes. I really don't. That one's been kind of fluid the last few days or so of both offensive line coaches, now only one offensive line coach. I'd expect Rob Sell to stay the way it's looking right here. Look, I'm going to put this episode out for everybody, but for just to chat here as we talk about it here on a Wednesday night, November 29th. Like I said, everything's fluid as of right now, and probably this decision's probably been made. But when it starts filtering out, what can you believe or whatever? I assume that from everything I'm hearing, Rob Sale's at least going to be safe there. Does that mean Stapleton goes? That means he stays. I don't fully know right there what happens with Napier and the OC thing and Billy G as well. Player interviews are happening this week. We got the defensive announcements early in the week, probably maybe to get a start on the hiring process there on that side of the ball. But we know, look, the offensive side of the ball is Billy Napier's, and how much is he going to be willing to give up? How much does he want to give up? I think it was a foregone conclusion that maybe he's going to give up play call. I don't know if it's so foregone conclusion now. If he does promote in staff, is that Russ Callaway? Is that hire made outside? Is it an NFL hire? Does a timeline of that play into it as well? I think there's a lot of ways to look at it right here for maybe why we haven't heard some things on the offensive side right now.
I'm going to be a little disappointed if we stick with the 2 offensive line coach system, to be honest. I haven't seen it work out.
Dave, if Napier promotes from within the staff, is it just going to be more of the same, just a different person calling it?
I'd say yes. If it is Callaway, I could see bringing back an experienced Mertz, some of the weapons you have at receiver, finding ways to open it up a bit more. And at that case, now he did have a more open offense at Samford. If you want to look at the stats, I'd have to really go back and look and see, is that offense very, I mean, look, there's a lot of offenses that cross, similarities. But, I don't, was it complete air raid? Was that more of that background? Maybe Ocho knows if he's still in here, if he went back and watched, or not necessarily watch, but know anything about Callaway at Samford. But he's been around. I mean, he was part of the LSU offense in 2020, I believe. Helping Steve Ensminger in the passing game concepts after Brady left. So there's a background there of an offense that we can go back and look at. But I think it'd be much of the same, maybe just finding ways to open it up a bit more.
By open up, do you mean more downfield?
Yeah, downfield shots,
30+ yard passing downfield. Because that was. I mean, Mertz was fantastic, in my opinion. I think in many opinions, people's opinion, but just that going 30+ downfield, stretching the defense, opening up the defense, keeping the safeties back a little bit. If Graham can
that's not his game.
Can bring that to his game a little bit more, I feel like that opens up a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, downfield shots, different route combinations, maybe that help. Like I said, I think just adding that stuff maybe a little bit to what we see for the offense. I don't think it's going to be some massive change. I don't. And I've kind of stood by that.
I'd like to add an offensive line that can pass block so that we can take those 30-yard shots.
Yeah, that's part of it too. No matter what we want to do as far as opening up the passing game, if those 5 guys in front of the quarterback aren't any better, it ain't gonna matter.
Yeah, I mean, Billy loves to throw downfield.
Yeah, that's true.
Downfield, anybody except USC last year, but it's a different story when you have Mertz versus AR.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not Mertz's game. I mean, he's not the strongest arm, and he's not, the best passer downfield. He's a line of scrimmage. He's best from 10 yards in. I mean, it is what it is, and he's been really good at doing that for us. I mean, it worked. I mean,
don't you think with better protection though? They kept trying it. Every time they'd get near every time they get near midfield, that play action shot was coming, and there'd be pressure right in Mertz's face almost every time they tried it. Still, don't you think maybe even if we take what we know about Mertz now, that they could probably maybe hit 1, 2, 3 more game in certain games?
Yeah, absolutely. If we can give him protection, I have no doubt that he can be more successful at that. I'm just.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. It's not going to be something you rely on all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it also takes wide receivers getting separation. Be able to get open too. I mean, it's a lot more than just Mertz not being able to make the throw. I mean, it's.
Our best downfield threat or wide receiver is Khalil Jackson. I mean,
you're right.
Like, who's going to make these plays downfield that people want?
I mean, and that's where, we see, Ricky and what he was good. And, I don't think he's some deep field, downfield threat that scares defenses. but he's gone. Wilson's not that. Wilson's not that guy. As much as we love Wilson, he's not that guy. And
he's
now
quick.
Yeah.
He's just not
How do we know Trey Wilson's not that guy? He's got the speed. Him and Aiden Mizell both have the speed to be able to stretch a defense. But it seemed like so often it was Trey Wilson in some sort of across the formation, the line of scrimmage to the backfield, and let him do something with it once he catches the ball there. But he's catching it at the line of scrimmage or 2, 3, 4, 5 yards down, not stretching like his speed can do. Like look at the Georgia game.
I don't think I just don't think he's a 9 route guy. I guess that's my point.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm not
a 9 route guy, but he could definitely do more than. I mean, the opening drive of the Georgia game. Look at it. We looked at that. We're like, oh, look at this. This is what he can do, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, it stopped.
But it didn't.
No, but here's the thing.
It never stopped. He had more than twice as many catches this year as freshman Percy Harvin. More than twice as many catches as Zach Branch at USC. Like everybody thinks Lincoln Riley is an offensive genius. Why couldn't he get Zach Branch the ball? I mean, like we got to be realistic about this stuff.
Fair point.
You're not going to have a freshman. You're going to have a freshman with 1,000 yards and 100 catches. It's not going to happen.
He's a freshman. Doesn't know the whole playbook. I mean,
yeah. I just think his athletic ability.
He's probably going to be really good next year. I mean,
his athletic ability and speed opened things up, I think.
During that time, the offensive line they were good. But the thing about our team and the reason why I'm so confused with Billy is he knows like when one bad thing happens, everything falls. Like everything just collapses with the team. So when you do trick plays that don't work, ever since that moment when the trick play didn't work, everything went downhill from there. And it's like with him, it's just like, how do you not see that if one thing doesn't work, like when you get too cute, when you try to do the double pass, you do a pass to Wilson in the backfield, and then you try to do another one to Ricky, and that stuff doesn't work. Like once you get sacked in the backfield on those trick plays, everything goes downhill from there. And that's my thing. It's like you have to understand that with your team. And I think he's even said that too, how like it's hard, like the room for error is just you can't really mess up there. And he did it in some games. It's just so confusing. Like in those games. Like you can't do that. And that's why that's when the offensive line didn't work. That's when everything went out the door after that first drive. And then it's just like go ahead.
If you have a talent deficiency, I don't see how the answer is being more simple, more basic, more simple. Like you do have to mix things up. You do have to try things that are high risk, high variance. And when you do things that are high risk, sometimes it doesn't work. And by the way, I got some bad news for everybody. That double pass actually came from Russ Callaway's playbook. He ran it at Samford against FSU in 2018.
I mean, and if the offensive line blocks, that double pass has a chance. I'm not saying it does work, but it has a chance. I mean, I don't blame Billy for taking a chance with a backup quarterback, knowing that we're struggling protecting him, just being a dropback passer. We're trying some trickeration, we're getting the ball a little bit deeper, hopefully more time to throw the ball, but that didn't work. I mean, they blew right through our offensive line, and they were in the backfield. I mean, killing him as soon as he released the ball. I mean, and he was 8-9 yards behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, had no time. So I mean,
people, we do that. This is a mistake we make as a fan base. Is we do this like hindsight. Oh man, we were up 12-0. How can we take a risk there? Okay, well, if we were up 12-0 and we ran the ball 3 times and got stuffed and had 3 and out, you'd say, oh, conservative, predictable Billy.
Exactly.
Like we don't actually have a narrative that's coherent. We just complain after we watch the play, and when you call the play, you don't know what the result's going to be.
And if that play works, we're having different conversations.
That's the beauty of trick plays. That is the trick plays have that have that reputation. It's damn
I
if you
mean,
do, damn if
Michigan practically beat Ohio State because of a running back pass. I mean, we scored a 2-point conversion this year on a running back pass. Like, when it works, we like it, and the coach is a creative genius. And when it doesn't, he's an idiot.
I think the thing is, like, if you go back to
even if UT has no pass work, we still lose by 30. It don't really matter.
if you go back to like the South Carolina game, like you even see a play where like Wilson is the running back. Like you can't give him a toss or something instead of giving it to Etienne or Johnson. Like I can see, like I get what y'all are saying, but like we have instances where he was just finding different ways to get Wilson the ball, and it's like it goes away, and it's like I don't get it. Like you couldn't have, like South Carolina game was right before the Georgia game. We seen Wilson get the ball like a toss in the backfield, but then we would get to Georgia, all of a sudden that just goes out the door.
That's a good point.
Georgia's defense has a lot to do with that too. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. You're supposed to be able to scheme around that. Like you just have to. Like you always have to give the best players to give you the best chance to win. You have to find a way to get them the ball. And it's just like I feel like he just laid down. Like Wilson doesn't even be on the field. Like that's just crazy to me. Like he has to be involved in something. And I just feel like that can't happen. Like you have to like it should have been closer. Like that should not have been a score. Like I really don't think that should have been a score. And I know there were plays that they were showing like, oh well, the same play that Wilson scored on later on in the game, it didn't work or something like that. Well, he caught the ball and he got 6 yards. Like he got yards up the field. I don't even think that was the same play. But it's like we have the opportunity to give our playmakers the ball, but I just feel like Billy just didn't do that for some reason. Like he doesn't even put them on the field. Like it's just crazy to me. Like you see that stuff against Arkansas. You can't tell me all right, we can say Georgia, fine. They shut them down or whatever, but we can't say that against Arkansas. Like there's no way you're telling me Arkansas could have shut down Wilson. There's no way. He shouldn't have been off that field. Like I would have force feed my best players the ball, and I think we would have won the Arkansas game. Like it's just those little stuff where like possessions where Wilson's off on the field and you get him mismanaging the game at the end of the game with Trey Smack and everything. Like that stuff could be avoided early on in the game. That's just my thing with him.
Oh, just Trey Wilson in the backfield. You know, think about 2007, 8, 9. Percy Harvin all of a sudden shifting from a wide receiver to a backfield slot or a position. You know, defenses had to account for him, one of the fastest, if not the fastest player on the field. And defenses had to look at him, had to pay attention to him. Now, there were other factors, obviously, Tebow and a bunch of other factors, but having an opportunity to have, get the football into the hands of your fastest, your best player, I mean, it at very least makes the defense have to account for that player. And I noticed at least once Keon Coleman for Florida State was lined up in the backfield for on offense for them, to the point that the other guy was just making. It's a great point. Move him around, get Trey Wilson in a position where the defense was like, all right, what the hell's going on here? What are they doing with him? And confuse the linebackers, confuse the safeties, and see if you can pop something, because sometimes it'll pop, especially with an athlete like Trey Wilson.
Florida ran a lot of 12 personnel this year, and he wasn't on the field during those. I mean, I don't think he's that great at pass blocking right now. So you saw Jackson and Pearsall out there whenever we were in 12 personnel. He'll be taking Pearsall's spot next year as the number one guy. So he'll be on the field more. I mean, I think these are all valid points, but it's still freshman year. I mean, defenses do adjust when you give the ball, a guy the ball, 6 times or 7 times in 2 drives. Well, they're going to start, doing something to limit that. I mean, we run the ball primarily. So like I said, when he's not on the field, 12 personnel, I mean, I don't know what you want there. I mean, he's got to get better at blocking and get to that, beat that second, take Khalil Jackson's spot.
We'll move on here a little bit. Any, I guess, wish list for defensive line coach and DB coach? I know I guess I'll start. My wish was Charlie Partridge. I don't think that's going to happen. Defensive line coach from Pitt does have interest. As far as I know, as of now, this late Wednesday night, no contact from Florida side on that. It looks like Florida wants to at least start in a different direction there. And look, Charlie's name comes up. I will say, good acquaintance with Charlie for a few years now. Met him through Bill King on the Bill King show where I'm at in Nashville every Tuesday morning, and we've talked for a few years now. And almost through Mullen, through Napier's initial hires when he was hired as head coach at Florida, and now we've talked almost every time Florida has a defensive line coach opening, and he's been interested every time and not get a call. And there may be something to that. I know the Miami fans have brought his name up before. FSU fans have brought his name up in some regards as well. But not getting a job in the Big Three from the state of Florida, has his recruiting ties there, was head coach at FAU at one time, but it doesn't look like that will be happening there. So we'll see. We'll see about these hires. I think there's some other names that have been thrown out there. 24/7 Sports on 3 putting together a list as well. Mark Ivey at Louisville's name has come up there. Spent 16 years as a high school coach in Florida. But his App State was his alma mater. Been part of Scott Satterfield's staff a good bit, so has that connection there. Still at Louisville now. Stuck around with Jeff Brom. So we'll see with the coaching change happening there at Louisville. But he's been there for a bit, so could that be one? Roy Seagrass for the Jaguars has a connection to Billy Napier. 2018 to 2021 at Louisiana with Billy Napier as a defensive line coach, assistant head coach. He's with the Jaguars now. So connection there along the defensive line. I don't know if there's any, I tweeted this out too. When we have these big boards, when we have these lists, a lot of times the hires don't come from that and the popular names that are out there. So I don't know if there's one that's just kind of maybe obviously overlooked that becomes the hire. But of course, those are some of the most popular. Chris Rumpf, of course, in the NFL with the Vikings now, part of Florida staff before under Jim McElwain as defensive line coach. I think the interest is to stay in the NFL for him, but he's another name that comes up a good bit. But what you guys' thoughts, defensive line coach replacement or a wish list guy for you guys?
Awesome. Go ahead.
I was just going to, do we think there's already traction on the defensive line since Cam announced a little earlier than he thought he was?
From what I can gather, there's traction on both. So DB and defensive line.
I would
Armstrong work with before.
NFL.
Yeah, NFL would worry me about the timeline. So that's why, and with that traction, with the rumored traction, it makes me think it's probably not NFL either. To get this thing going there. Somebody else, I didn't see who it was talking, but yeah, I tweeted this out too. Austin Armstrong's a young defensive coordinator. So what's the coaching circle like for him? Is it, you go back to his GA days under Kirby at Georgia, and maybe there's some connections there. He's at Louisiana. So, is there guys, I know, what's the name of the DB coach at Louisiana that, I think would kind of be disappointing for a lot of people if he was the hire. Burris, is that his last name off the top of my head? Anyway, he's DB coach at Louisiana now, I think.
Jeff Burris.
Yeah.
He played defensive back at Notre Dame, I think, at the time.
Yeah. So I know his name's coming up. I think there might be a connection to Armstrong there. But that's the thing. He's a young defensive coordinator, 2 years at Southern Miss. So I don't think we're going to be jumping up and down from any connection there if he decides to bring anybody from Florida. So I don't know about I mean, the coaching circle's big anyway. Of course, we know he's got a history with Kirby and a lot of those guys that Lanning and everybody who's been on that staff under Georgia or under Kirby. So there's connections, of course, but I don't know the relationship, I guess I should say, with guys like that. So we're talking about some names that are out there a good bit, but I'm just not so sure it's going to come from a lot of the names that we're throwing out there. As far as DB, before
and you said,
go ahead, Ryan.
You said that earlier in the group that you think Armstrong's going to have a lot of say in this hire.
That's what I was told. He's going to have a good bit of say in these hires.
That's a little worrisome, just given he doesn't have a very big background, only being at Southern Miss.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure of Napier being the head guy, ultimately, I don't, would go through him. But from what I was told, Armstrong would have a huge say in it. We'll go DB, and then maybe you guys can combine them. But Zach Etheridge is the hot name coming up now at Auburn. His third season at Auburn. He's a secondary coach. Houston before he was with Napier at Louisiana in 18 as the cornerbacks coach. So there's a connection there. Doug Belk, Houston, of course, probably one of the more popular names coming out. Does seem Georgia may be interested in him after their DB coach got the head coach job at Syracuse. So Belk was with Houston for 5 seasons under Dana Holgerson, his third as defensive coordinator. But Belk and Napier worked together 3 seasons at Alabama. So that's why his name was coming up for the DC job early as well when Napier was hired at Florida. Belk's name was very popular there. Corey Bell, everybody knows that name. A couple of stints at Florida. He's at FAU now. Apparently he has interest in the job, so probably a name to look out for there. And one more, Azar Abdul Rahim of Boston College. 4th season at Boston College. His this year co-defensive coordinator, defensive back coach there as well. He was at Bama in 14 and 15 with Napier, and Boston College's pass defenses have been pretty good the last 2 years. So that's kind of an off the beaten path name with a connection to Billy Napier back from his Bama days. So those are the kind of names I say you look out for in these there. Like I said, that's not necessarily a connection to Austin Armstrong. So maybe, we look past something like that, but I do think you have to look at Billy Napier connections as well with some of these.
Yeah, man, I think Napier's job, he's on the hot seat, so he's ultimately going to make the hires who he thinks is best going to, turn this thing around. I'm sure Austin Armstrong is going to have a lot of input. But I still feel like Napier, it's just his job.
Yeah.
If he wants to put all his eggs in Austin Armstrong's hires, then, just see what happens.
What's the problem with Austin Armstrong having a lot of input on it? Hiring a defensive line coach and a DB's coach who
he should have input.
That he knows would work well with him and what he wants to do. Could be a plus.
Well, it could be. It's just that is that where youth comes in again?
Maybe. Yeah.
It's like his circle is just not that big. We don't think right now.
Yeah. Like I said, you use the coaching tree as well. It doesn't have to be somebody he's super familiar with. Those guys in some ways do help each other out a lot. So I'm sure he'll be making some calls and, hey, I vaguely know about this guy, and I'm sure he knows somebody who knows that guy much better than he does. So I don't think it has to be, he don't have to be buddy. It doesn't have to be a Napier-Kirby relationship, or, it doesn't have to be a Kirby-Saban relationship. It don't have to be that close. But I would think it's somebody who's pretty familiar with Napier and somewhat coaching tree familiar wise with Austin Armstrong.
And his scheme. I think scheme fit.
Well, to go by that, I'll tell you that Etheridge and Austin Armstrong were both at Louisiana in 2018. So with Napier.
Yep.
Okay. Huh?
Yeah, I think that's why his name kind of shot up late today. It does seem like Etheridge.
I wouldn't mind Belk.
I wouldn't mind Belk. It just seems like if Georgia wants him, okay.
Yeah. Georgia wants him, then yeah.
That's a foregone conclusion that he would probably go there. How much is how much truth is there that Kirby got interest there? I think you can ask ourselves that question. But yeah, Etheridge, Belk, and Corey Bell. It kind of coming out today that he'd have interest. I think, coming from those three.
We've done Corey Bell twice, haven't we?
What was he? He was here in 17, right? McElwain's last year's DB coach.
And didn't we beg him to rehire him? Like everybody went crazy.
Well, and then he was player person. Yeah, he was director of player personnel in 21, and then Napier. And he hung around a little bit before he ended up leaving under Napier.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
That doesn't have anything to do with our search, but find a little interesting that Vanderbilt just announced that they fired their OC and demoted their DC.
We do not play Vanderbilt next year.
Well, that's disappointing.
Didn't Shepard enter the portal today, or is going to enter the portal? Wasn't that announced?
I hadn't seen that yet.
I mean, that would be big. I thought I saw that.
Yeah, I don't want Doug Belk or Corey Bell. If you look at their all-time recruit list, it is. It is. Both of them combined.
I can't find anything on Will Shepard.
Yeah. I mean, who's out there that we think is an ace recruiter that we can get? I mean, ultimately, we need one.
See, that's another thing. Somebody, had that conversation today with some, and I don't know. Is there a just can't miss dynamite recruiter out there? I don't know.
I've heard some people clamoring for DeMarcus Van Dyke or something like that.
Yeah,
I have no idea what that's about either, because there's nothing to that list either.
I did see his DVD. I did see his initials pop up today. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for hopping on here.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah. Hot and heavy. I'm sure, we'll certainly keep an eye and ear out for ETN, see if that's going to officially come down or not, one way or the other. So hopefully it works out, where he sticks around. But we'll keep our eye out for that. That's probably episode worthy, I think. So there'll be another episode of Gators Breakdown if good news or bad news, I guess I should say, on that one. So, but I think with all the news today, it certainly was a good day to get with you guys to discuss it all.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
I missed the first few minutes. Did you talk at all about any expected news on our coaching firings? Do you have anything on that?
As far as what, any more firings?
Yeah, any more rumors or anything even at this point? Because
no, on offense, I would say I'd go back a little earlier. Offensive line, I still think one may happen. I think Sales sticks and maybe Stapleton. Billy G, I'm a little questionable on. I don't know. I'd probably say Lean. Way it sounds right now, probably not as much move on the offensive side as originally thought.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, guys. Thanks for hopping on.